Good afternoon. I'm very honored to be up here being able to present to you one of the inductees to the Kansas Collegiate Officials Hall of Fame. Marcia's journey began way back over 35 years ago, and it began when she was actually playing volleyball. She played volleyball out here at Wichita State and I believe in another sport or so. And then she decided, with a group of other individuals, a handful of them, that met in some living room and began talking about their dreams, talking about where are women's sports going, what are the officials, and what's all the administrative piece going to look like. And they just, I think, just kind of threw things out there. Well, what grew from that was the affiliated board of officials, which actually included other officials, and eventually it really was a nationwide organization. With that, under her leadership, that grew. Membership grew. It ended up becoming just a volleyball organization, still called Affiliated Boards of Officials. And so she realized, okay, we've got to do more training. We've got to meet the needs of the grassroots and those that want to actually keep, increasing their involvement in officiating, whether it's administrative or actually being on the court. So she went and looked for some models for volleyball camps. We know there's lots of camps out there for lots of sports, but she found one and took that model and kind of modified it to the best of her ability and funds that she had available with her organization, and developed a camp program. It was very small, just a few camps, and as things grew with the camp program, now the new organization, which is just for volleyball, is the Professional Association of Volleyball Officials. In the spring, starting in a week or so, there are 6 to 8 camps offered every year across the country for all levels of officials, grassroots to national level. Okay? And there are scholarships made available. There is an application process, but it's able to serve a lot of people across the whole country. And so that's one of her accomplishments. The next thing would be that with the training piece is clinics. Clinics across the country, 25 to 30, every fall before the season starts, starting about the middle of July, every weekend. There are about 7 to 8 clinicians that are trained, have developed all of the content, grassroots to national level, face-to-face across the whole country. From Albany, New York, Tulsa, Oklahoma, even out to the West Coast, which is they have different ones out there, but there's one really big one that has 6 of the conferences out there all at one site. And honestly, all of this, yes, there's board people, there's all these other people, but if it wasn't for her leadership and her foresight and her, let's just not throw this together, there's models we're going to do, and we're going to change these models as we need to as our organization keeps growing. And during that whole process, she was the rules interpreter for the NAGWS Volleyball Rules Rulebook, which is the National Association for Girls and Women in Sports, which that grew into when the NC2A took over writing the volleyball rules book. Then she was the rules editor. So she has worn so many hats. She's a conference coordinator, or I believe 5, maybe I've lost count, 6, okay, all right, sorry. 6 conferences, from the elite to the grassroots conferences. And so she keeps herself involved in all levels, administratively. Even now, she has retired as the executive director of the Professional Association of Volleyball Officials, but that doesn't mean she's still not involved. She takes on new tasks every year, even though it's been, what, a couple years? So, but anyway, she's not disappearing anytime soon, and the rest of us are very thankful for that. We're very thankful for all the groundwork she has laid. PAVO now has approximately 2,500 to 3,000 official members, and then roughly maybe 600 to maybe 700 associate memberships. And that's really been under the guise of Marcia Alterman. It's her foresight, some of those things that they talked about in that living room long, long ago. And we have all benefited from that. She's also maintained a lot of relationships with other organizations like NASO. She's been very active in that with officials development. Yes, she writes articles, gets the rest of us to write articles for the Referee magazine. So again, she's been everywhere. Now on a personal level, she's been there from the beginning for me as a collegiate official. Because she wears so many hats, I would sometimes get to the point where I had to say, okay, what hat are you wearing, so I know how to phrase my question or talk to you right now in this moment. And because otherwise, things just didn't kind of work. But the first time that she ever really gave me some really sound advice was, Mary, you need to go to Omaha and officiate the zonal tournament. And I'm like, okay, if Marcia thinks I'm ready, okay, I'll go up there. Okay, so we go up there, and I'm thinking Marcia's going to be, you know, where I am. And so, well, next thing I know, we're getting out. We pull up to this gym. We're both getting out. I get a hug, have a good day, and I'm just like, okay. And honestly, that's the last thing I remember that weekend, because I don't remember all the rest of it happening because I was just a little, I knew nobody. I didn't know, I've never been to an event like that, so I had no idea how everything was laid out and how the event would run. But I survived, obviously, because here I am. She has also been there for the rest of my career, and I have greatly appreciated all of that. And that culminated in December when she was the one that actually was able to introduce me for an award at the PAVO convention in Kansas City at the NC2A Division I championships. So I'm glad I can pay you back for this, all right? But I want to tell you that I also enjoyed working with Marcia because I knew that when she's rules interpreter, rules editor, we weren't going to have any problems, okay? I knew that the buck was going to stop right here, and then we weren't going to have a protest or anything. One time we were here at Newman University when we were calling men's. She was on the stand as R1 and I was on the floor as R2. Again, things were going great. Well then, the visiting team's captain goes up to Marcia on the stand and starts quoting the rule book, talking to her about how this should have been interpreted, what the cost should have been. And I'm just over there going, this is going to be interesting. There's always been one phrase. She always said she never wanted to have to pull out of her hat to use, and she had been successful at not pulling that phrase out of the hat. Well, this person, this captain just kept kind of pushing her, and I could tell her button was getting close. We were gonna. So all of it, she finally had to do it. She pulled that out, and she said, "I wrote the rule book. I know the application, the interpretation of all the rules in the rule book, and my picture's in the front." So he kind of looked at her, and I never had any more problems. It was a great match, but I was glad I got to witness that. I also was able to work with her last match out of here at Wichita State that she did officiate as a collegiate official. So I'm very thankful for everything that Marcia's done, and I know there's a lot of other people out there that are very thankful for her also and her leadership as a friend, as a mentor, sometimes maybe a tormentor as we progress through and don't know why we're getting pushed into a certain situation. But I also want to congratulate the rest of you that are being inducted, and I would like for you to remember those of you that have already been inducted, and I know there's some people in the room here that will be inducted in the future. I want you to remember that you've all impacted somebody, and a lot of somebodies out there. A lot of somebodies, okay? And those somebodies, because of you and your impact, are not just anybody now. And I would like for you to remember that. And I would like to thank Marcia for allowing this somebody to kind of hang on your coattail and not just be just anybody. I would like to present to you my mentor, very good friend, Marcia Alterman.